You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
I like Triceratops. They're cool. See this one? I painted him. He's kind of a big miniature, but he's cool. I got him from D&D stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about D&D, but not what you guys think we're going to talk about. But I'm showing this guy because tomorrow we're going to talk about painting miniatures and building them and stuff like that. Because tomorrow we get back to our Warhammer talk. But today we're going to talk about little smaller things, Willow, Ant-Man. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hola, ¿cómo está? El Diablo es aquí. How y'all doing today? It is Tuesday, January 10th, and this is the Dan Wickline Show on The Experience. Hello to Triple B and to Cool, and we got Jay on the board today, and we got Kyle floating in and out because the three of us will be doing the in-stores this week the moment we wrap up with this show. Hello, Ed. Good to see you, sir. Ed, I got to tell you, I have been giving more and more thoughts to doing some kind of crocheting thing, some kind of crochet show. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards it. So, probably have an announcement in a week or so. Might be over on my site, but thinking about it. So, all right, guys. Today we are going to talk about the new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer. That was huge. Hey, Jeff, good to see you. Huge for an Ant-Man trailer. We are going to talk about the most recent episode and penultimate episode of Willow. And we're going to cover a bit of the news. So, there is a huge story going on right now having to do with Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I am not going to dive that deep into it, because I haven't had a chance to really research it much, but also because it has to do with something that is not officially released yet. But I'll give you the highlights of it. There is a new OGL, or official game license, that has leaked. Now, calling it an OGL is what they call the form, but it hasn't been officially released yet, even though it's called the official game license. And what this is how other people can make content for Dungeons and Dragons, such as Kobold Press, Piazzo that does Pathfinder, stuff like that. And this new game license from Wizards of the Coast, that again is not officially released, it's a leaked version, is rather aggressive and has some things in it that people are not happy about. Basically, it has Wizards of the Coast claiming that anything you make involving their property then becomes their property, and they can give you a cease and desist on it while continuing to publish it themselves. It's a really, really aggressively harsh license. And since it's leaked, Wizards of the Coast has said nothing. They haven't acknowledged it. They haven't disputed it. They pretty much are putting their fingers in their ears and saying, la, 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 I can't hear you. And we know that because there's other news from them today. But this has the D&D community up in arms. It has them very worried. There's a lot of indie creators who make games and modules and stuff. Critical Role might be affected by this. Definitely the companies that have a business model based around creating things in conjunction with Dungeons and Dragons will be affected. So, but I think we have to back up a little bit and remember that this is not an officially released license. And we don't know what the thing will look like when it is released, or even if this is a real thing. You know, it's kind of tricky, but yeah, you don't know. So we will go into more depth into this because it is it is a big deal and could affect a lot of stuff. But we're going to put that on hold now until there's actually some concrete evidence. Okay, this is the actual form they're putting out. They've agreed that this is what they're doing, something like that. So we're going to put it aside for now. What we will talk about is that they had a completely different announcement, and that is that Paramount Plus has given an 8-episode straight-to-series order to an adaptation of Hasbro's wildly popular Dungeons and Dragons fantasy role-playing game franchise. Now, Red Notice filmmaker Rawson Marshall Thurber wrote the pilot script, and is set to direct the first episode of the series, which will be a co-production between E1 and Paramount Pictures. Now, this is, of course, coming off of the heels of a Dungeons and Dragons movie, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which is directed by Jerry Goldstein and John Francis Daley, who I think wrote some of the Spider-Man movies and stuff. And this is that's gonna be coming out on March 31st, and it's got Chris Pine and Hugh Grant and stuff, which the trailer looked fantastic to me. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think this is probably what's moving the series forward. Is that Paramount Plus wants to jump in on something that's going to get more and more people to get into their game, or get into their streaming service. So they've got Star Trek and they've got a couple other things, but Dungeons and Dragons opens up a whole new realm. No pun intended. Ed asks, would the D&D feud impact Vox Machina? I don't think it would, for the simple fact that currently Matt Mercer has been writing his stuff for D&D lately. So I think he will have a carved out niche, and I think Wizards of the Coast would be stupid to go after Critical Role because they are kind of a juggernaut with all the critters. So, plus the second season's already filmed and be released, and this licensing agreement has not come out yet. So this would be under the old licensing agreement. Going forward, again, we have to wait till see what the licensing agreement is, just like, what it's going to mean for this series. I don't know either. We'll have to find out. But so there is movement on that. Now there's another sub-story to this, and this has to do with Kobold Press. Now, Kobold Press is one of the premier publishers of Dungeons and Dragons compatible material. And what they've come out and said, they're not waiting. They're not, they're not hanging out waiting to see what the actual license is going to be. They're going to move forward and create their own core role-playing game. So the idea is that their own rule set, so they won't have to work off a D&D anymore. They will basically be able to make stuff for their own rules and create a whole new game system. And pretty much right now, there is Dungeons and Dragons, there's Call of Cthulhu, and then everybody else is kind of, I mean, there's Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, and then all of the other rule systems are down here. There's, what is it? Fudge dice. I don't remember the name of the system, but they're the one that use these dice with the plus and the minuses and stuff. But they have a couple different things as well. So there are a couple different systems out there, but this would give them Kobold the ability to move everything forward. They could transfer all of their existing stuff over to this new system or make them work either way. So even though the license isn't officially released yet, Kobold Press is moving forward in this direction. Piazza is going to be the other one. We got to wait and see what they're going to do with their Pathfinder stuff, because that's pretty big. Jay says, learn something new every day. John Francis Daly was also Freaks and Geeks, Waiting, and Bones. Never knew he co-wrote Homecoming. Yep. Yeah. He was, wasn't he the guy that ended up committing the murders in the beginning? No, he was the, on Bones. He was the profiler guy. Yeah, I knew that before, but yeah, I do find that interesting that this is an actor that we are all familiar with, and he's also writing these scripts with his, what is that? Okay, so he's co-writing these scripts with another writer, and so that's pretty amazing because he's written some great scripts. But so we're going to have to see how this DNC thing plays out. But there's a series moving forward. There's a movie coming out. So Wizards of the Coast may be kind of tightening ship so that they get all the money they can. But he did The Goat in Waiting. Okay. I'm not familiar with Waiting, but oh no, I am Waiting. I know. Yeah, I know that movie. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to some other news. Get away from the D&D stuff. If you are a Anne Rice fan, you know that they recently had the Interview with the Vampire series hit AMC Plus. Well, and now they have Mayfair Witches on AMC Plus. They're going to move forward with the idea of a crossover between the two. So now reviews on Interview with a Vampire were really good. I've only seen one so far for the Mayfair Witches, and it wasn't a good response to it. So even though they've got Alexandria Daddario in it, who's kind of a fan favorite among the geek culture. But yeah, the response I saw from somebody I used to work with over at Bleeding Cool was that it was horrible. So have not seen it myself. I don't have AMC Plus. There's that point where you go, I have too many streaming services. If I have all of them, I might as well just pay for cable again. But so I don't have AMC Plus, so I have not seen Interview with the Vampire or the Witches. But anybody from AMC, if you want to send me screeners, I'd be happy to cover them on the show for you. That goes for also Paramount Plus because I don't have that. There's a couple others, but yeah, sending me free copies of your shows, that will make me at least talk about them. Not necessarily favorably if it's bad, but I will talk about it. So yeah, I'm going to get a crossover between the Mayfair Witches and Interview with the Vampire, which should be interesting because I don't think they ever did that in the books. I've read most of the Interview with the Vampire books. I haven't read that many of the Mayfair Witches books, but it would be interesting to see how they cross over. I don't think it's a natural thing. It'll have to be some kind of twist and turns and whatnot. But also, speaking of TV shows, we got two more bits of news. You guys know the toy line RoboForce? Well, the Nacelle company has ordered a straight-to-series animated show based on RoboForce. So the studio behind The Toys That Made Us, Kevin Hart's Guide to Black History, and the Mad About You reboot, Icons on Earth, Behind the Attractions, all that. This is their property, so they're going to do this. So, and it's got Tom Stern from SpongeBob SquarePants and Gavin Heinite from Transformers: War of Cybertron, the trilogy, have joined to write and produce as the showrunners. So if you're a fan of RoboForce, you got an animated series coming, and it's already got a straight-to-series order. And then the final bit of news we have is that while The Walking Dead has ended, we still had Fear the Walking Dead. Well, that's going to come to an end with the 8th season on AMC. Now, with that, there's the Walking Dead spinoff, Dead City, which is now set for June. And also the Andrew Lincoln and Danaya Guerrera spinoff series is likely to come out in 2024. So even though we're coming to the end of the first spinoff series of The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, there's plenty more coming up. So stick around for that. All right. Before we jump into the other stuff, let's go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we will talk about episode 7 of Willow. Be right back.
Go follow the experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me. Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We got a big lineup today. After this, Kyle and Jay are going to join me for In Stores this week as we cover some of the books shipping this week, including Godzilla Rivals, Crashing #5. We've been following Crashing the whole time. Assassin's Apprentice, The Ones, and Red Sonja, Hell Sonja #2, just to name a couple. Following that will be Minute to Skim It with the folks from Space Cadets getting the new books that come out tomorrow, getting 1 minute to skim them, and then giving their thoughts on it. It's kind of a fun show. See how quickly they can come up with an opinion, and yeah, it's just kind of neat to see. I like that format. We'd steal it, but they already took that, so that wouldn't be cool. They'd probably hunt us down. After that, we have our newest member of the Experience family, which is the Mint Hunter. You might know him from YouTube, where he's gotten quite a following, but mostly he does short little stuff over on YouTube, where for us, he's going to be doing an hour-long program telling stories about some of the collections that he's bought, books he's picked up, and offer up some unique titles, a lot of Dynamite stuff that he's doing. So that's a good sales show and story show. And then after that will be Country Road Comics finishing up the night. So we got a big lineup here. So you want to stick around for that. And while you're here, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, the like button, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet on YouTube, we've got a big thing coming up that you're going to want to be part of. So again, we're going to be announcing it soon. I thought we were going to announce it already, but we're going to announce it soon. And it's going to be pretty big. It's going to involve all the shows. So you're definitely going to want to be part of this, and you need to be a subscriber for it. So hit that subscribe button. And now let's move on to the 7th episode of Willow, called Beyond the Shattered Sea. Now, my interest and love of this show has been waning. The last couple episodes seems to have drug on. They weren't really moving very quickly. There was a lot more standing and talking than there was fighting. And then when they were fighting, it was like they took turns walking up to the microphone to make a joke. So I really loved how the series started, but these middle episodes have been kind of waning for me. And I was kind of like, can we just get to the end? Let's just wrap this up. I doubt there's going to be a second season. Then episode 7 happened. And the first thing that stood out to me about it is the look of the episode. This whole thing takes place with Willow and Alora and Kit and the crew trying to get to the city to save Eric, and they have to cross the Shattered Sea. Well, they've reached the Shattered Sea, but now they have to cross it. And most of this takes place while traveling across the Shattered Sea, which is this weird setup because you could walk across it, or mud creatures can go under it and bring you across in like a sled, is how we've discovered, how they seem to travel on it. But the entire thing is filmed in what must have been the volume, which is the dome-like structure that they created for The Mandalorian, and now Disney's using for all their stuff, if they can. Where a lot of the show has been filmed on location. This felt like it was in the volume, and it was a good thing. This was one of the most cinematic looking episodes. There was something about it that was just riveting looking. It had the way it was filmed, the way it was shown, the lighting effects, the special effects that were in it. This was probably my favorite episode so far. And what's funny is there wasn't a lot going on, and there were problems with the episode. Things that happened that I don't quite understand why they happened. And if they get paid off in the 8th episode, great. If not, then I'm just going to be like, that's just weird writing. So, but what we get is Kit's hurt and they need to rest. And they stop at this little cabin on the water, like a fishing hut. And there's an old man there who has this way of traveling across. You could rent traveling across around the sea and stuff, but suppose you can never get to the other side. There's not supposed to be anything on the other side. He even says that he tried to cross the Shattered Sea and they ended up getting lost and turning on each other, and he was like the only survivor of his party. Pretty good reason not to travel across the Shattered Sea. But and he's very nice. He's like making dinner for them and then breakfast for them and trying to get them to stay and keep them from going. And half of them don't want to go because they don't trust it. So it's not that hard. But And through all of this, you're noticing that time seems to be moving along, but you're not sure how much. And then there's a moment where Graydon, when they're about to make breakfast, knocks the guy down with a pan and yells out, "We've got to get out of here." And they all hop on this sled and start heading out, and then they get chased by bad guys and stuff. And it turns out the guy who owns the shed and was cooking for them was some kind of a monster. They never explain how Graydon knows that he's a monster. There's no moment, no anything. He just suddenly knows, and they go. That was my one of my two problems. The other part is as they're trying to get away from this guy on a horse chasing them who has this demon bird, Graydon turns around and casts a magic spell with his flute. His actual flute, like this. Yeah, don't go thinking stuff like that. And he casts a spell, and it's like, when did Graydon learn magic? And the closest thing they get to an explanation is Willow later on going, "How did you learn to do that?" He goes, "Well, I've been watching you guys." Really? But you'll also know, well, I'll get to that in a minute, but so those were my two issues with this episode, is that Graydon's actually awful sketchy. He also befriends the mud creature thing that's dragging them across the sea, gives it the name Kenneth, feeds it, takes care of it, and then when he thinks Kenneth is sad and might die, he releases it, leaving them stranded in the middle of the shattered sea. But so Graydon's acting weird as hell. He's even scratching like crazy on something. So I'm thinking he's possessed or infected or something. And if that's what happens, then okay, some of this is going to make sense. But if not, and this just is left out there, then I'm going to really wonder what the hell this story's doing. That said, as they're traveling, we see the passage of time in a very interesting way. Hey, Kenneth. In the last episode, no, the episode before, Graydon shaved his beard off when he's hanging out with the rebels or renegades or whatever they are. And then they rescue Kit and Willow. And then we're seeing him, and as we're going across the ice, we realize he grows his beard back. So that shows you how long they were out there. But it was a subtle way, and I like that. It was a very subtle way to show the passage of time, is that this guy suddenly had his beard back. So I thought that was pretty clever. But while they're out there, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on. So you've got the little action of fighting the guy at the hut, and then escaping the guy and the bird. But once that happens, the rest of the episode is a whole lot of talking and 80s training montages. And for some reason, where I've complained that the show is slow, and this episode is that, it's slow, but it's good. That's the weird thing, is that what they're doing here really works, because there's a lot of stuff suddenly happening. Alora and Willow are sparring. Kit and Jade are sparring. And everything's moving forward. There's some declarations of love, more than one. 3 if you count Graydon's feelings for Kenneth, the mud creature. And the way they filmed it, though, that's the thing that I keep coming back to. You have this sea that they're standing on, like it's almost not quite ice, but it's like they're that deep in the water and they're stepping on it. But there's also this huge mud creature that's sliding through it. So it's a really neat concept. But so they're finding these places where they can stop and rest and feed Kenneth and get out and walk around. And that's where they're training. Well, it's all filmed on the, again, I think it's on the volume, but the lighting, the way the sun's rising and setting and stuff, it's all looks awesome. And then everything is filmed kind of at an up angle, which suddenly makes all of these characters seem more heroic as they're throwing magic bolts back and forth at each other. And, Willow looks badass at this point, using his staff and casting spells at Allura, and Allura is blocking him with the wand and sending them back. And what's interesting is that every spell Allura casts is green, and every spell that Willow casts is blue. It's like, okay, different schools of magic maybe, or different power centers or whatever. And then when Graydon starts, hey John, when Graydon starts casting spells, it's suddenly red. So where I love the different colors and the way, and it's not done, it's done in kind of like crackling lightning stuff. So visually, it's just a beautiful episode, and it's directed by someone named Jamie Childs, who has not directed any of the previous episodes, but is directing the finale as well. So that right there bodes well. The second thing is that Jamie Childs has quite the pedigree. Before this, they direct. I say they because Jamie is a spelling that could be a male or a female, and I don't want to be disrespectful. So they did 4 episodes of The Sandman, which was awesome. They did 6 episodes of His Dark Materials, also very good. 4 episodes of Doctor Who from 2018. They worked on the Next of Kin series. They worked on Lucky Man and Vera. So they've been doing a lot of stuff over the last few years. The first thing they ever directed was all the way back in 2012, a short called The Bond, and then another short called Crowded House in 2016. And Paul, and then they started doing TV shows in 2016, and then Vera, Lucky Man, and they've just been getting a bunch of work, and you can see why, because like I said, the episode looks phenomenal. So if you kind of teetered away from Willow because some of the last few episodes weren't that great, this one is really good. I was really pleased, and it makes me excited for the finale, which should be tomorrow. But yeah, I was really pleased with it. And then we also see what's going on with Eric. He also did a Doctor Who thing. I looked him up. Yeah, he did 4 episodes of Doctor Who. They did. But yeah, there's we also see what's going on with Eric, and then the ending of the episode is a good cliffhanger for the finale. So I'm not going to say what it was, because if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, you should definitely see it. But for me, this episode brings the show back around. This is a show that's going to be great to binge watch, because I've been doing it weekly and it's getting a little tedious in the middle, where I think if you binged it, it would just keep you going. This is one that may not, the word of mouth hasn't been working for it. And that's sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I think Andor was a great weekly series because they kept ramping up the tension more and more and more and more, to the point where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I can't wait. Where this one, it's like, there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency. I think that's my biggest complaint of the show, is that while everybody says they have to get to this place to save Eric, there's a whole lot of let's stop and eat. Let's go visit these people. Let's take the long way around. There isn't this sense of urgency that there should be for trying to rescue this guy. So, Yeah, I'm looking forward to the finale. I think there's a lot of open questions, and I don't mind there being open questions if we know there's going to be a second season. So if they want to wrap up a couple things, save some for the following season, like what happened to Mad Mardigan, that's going to definitely wait till season 2. But if we're not getting a second season, then I want answers. I definitely want answers. So we'll have to see what they do with that. But again, I thought the episode was really good. It was definitely one of the better episodes of the series. So, all right, guys, hit the like and subscribe buttons, as Nick pointed out. Hello, Nick. And we are going to take our other break. And when we come back, we're going to focus on Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer that dropped yesterday. So we'll be right back.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Hello, my name is Afrim Jambalai, writer and creator of The Legend of the Night Owl. You are watching The Experience.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Normally when we do a commercial break, what I do is I hop over to some of the news sites and stuff to make sure I've got all the latest news. If something big broke while I've been talking or on the show, I want to be able to get that, read it real quick, and get it to you guys. This time I didn't, or I checked quickly, but there was nothing. So I actually got to see a couple of our commercials during the break. Normally I don't. It's like I've been hearing the Mountain Dew join the membership one. By the way, the link to join the membership is in the chat down there. But we have footage of somebody smoking in one of our ads. That surprised me. I didn't think anybody put smoking on anything unless it's a character in a show that is the bad guy or something, but yeah, we have a guy smoking in it. That was kind of strange. And then the second commercial with talking about the dance party on Saturday night and watching Pikachu dancing and stuff, it reminded me of, I think it was San Diego Comic-Con. Quite a few years ago, I was there and went to a restaurant outside of the convention center. and was sat down having something to eat. And I look over and there's the bar in the center of the restaurant. And at the bar is a guy in a beautiful Iron Man armor. I mean, well made. It looked, you could take a picture of this guy and, it's that type of thing. It just looks like Iron Man. And he's got his helmet off, sitting on the bar next to him. He's got his head down like this, hand on his head, looking a little dejected. And there's a scotch in front of him. And all I could think of is, we have the demon in the bottle cover. I should run over and take a picture. But I couldn't get close enough to get a good shot without him noticing, and I didn't, And he looked like him, too. He had done up the hair and stuff and the goatee. It would have been a great shot. But looked like the cover to Demon in the Bottle, but not in a mirror. See, that would have been good if I would have gone around him and there was a mirror at the bar and I could take that picture. But all right, let's talk last night during what had to be one of the most lopsided national championships I've ever seen, as Georgia just beat the crap out of TCU. I think the score was like 63-7 or something like that. And if you're a TCU fan, I'm sorry. And if you're a George Bulldog fan, well done. Just wow. That's just handling your business. But during the game, they released a trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And we've had a trailer before. The trailer before had the Elton John song, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, playing and all that. And you had kind of an emotional thing. You got to see a lot of the special effects and how the movie's going, but you didn't really get a feel for the emotional consequences of the movie. Ant-Man has always been a lighthearted palate cleanser. It always comes at the end of a phase after we've had the Avengers movie has already happened and everybody died or everybody was snapped away and, we're going to have a fun little movie. The first one came at the end of a phase, I believe. And it was like, we had a little heist movie. Paul Rudd's going to make a lot of jokes. We got Michael Pena. He's going to be great. David Dastmalchian. If anybody wants any serious jargon or whatever, we'll throw Michael Douglas in there. It's going to be great. And the second one came in between Endgame and, between Infinity War and Endgame. And we got to see the snap effect, but it was still kind of humorous. It was still humorous. This doesn't feel like it's going to be humorous. And to the best of my knowledge, Michael Pena isn't in this. I think I've got the list. Yeah, I'm not seeing Michael Pena. David Dastmalchian is listed still. That I thought was interesting. But he's listed as Veb, and I don't remember if his character was Veb in the other one. But yeah, this is going to be a very different Ant-Man movie because this is not the insular little palate cleanser movie that they've been doing. This is kicking off the big stuff. This is what takes us from phase 4 into phase 5. This is the phase 5 beginning, which is the equivalent of Winter Soldier or no, not Winter Soldier. It's basically when the stones started getting serious and Thanos started becoming an actual threat. That's what this is. Even in the trailer, it says begin the witness or the beginning of a new dynasty. And it's telling us right there, this is going to lead us into the Kang Dynasty movie, Avengers Kang Dynasty. and that this is the movie that takes Jonathan Major's character from being He Who Remains in Loki, in one episode of Loki, and elevates him to Thanos status, is going to make him the threat that's going to involve the Avengers having to get together for him. And, how does that carry over into Secret Wars? So that's what this trailer was giving us the feel for. It didn't have any pop music or anything like that. It had your basic tense, quick-paced trailer music. But it showed us some very important things, some of which I'm a little surprised they showed us. There is an image of Ant-Man or Scott holding his phone. And he's getting a call from his daughter, Cassie. But if you look at the picture on the phone, it's her as a little girl. It's her from Ant-Man 2. Now, Scott was blipped or snapped or whatever term we're using nowadays. So he was gone for 5 years. And in that 5 years, his little girl grew up to be a teenager, now played by Catherine Newton. And if you have kids or you've dealt with kids, you know that they go from, oh, my daddy's my best friend, to, I want to go out and hang with my friends. Why don't you take me over there? Or, I don't have time for this. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. So he came back. Jay, I stand corrected. He was trapped in the quantum realm. He wasn't snapped. He was trapped in the quantum realm because everybody else was snapped. I stand corrected. And the rat saved him. See, that's the thing, is the whole rat thing still I have a hard time with. But yeah. Thank you, Jay. But we see that Scott is clinging to those days when Cassie would come over and they'd build these cardboard forts that they'd do heists in. They'd work together and, go through the whole maze and all that stuff that we saw in Ant-Man 2, or when he showed up with the super ugly toy and she loved it. He misses that version of his daughter because the version we see in this movie now is basically on the verge of being an adult, having her own life, having her own choices and decisions, and having spent 5 years without him. It wasn't 5 years for Scott. It was a few minutes. He was trapped in the quantum realm for just a few minutes, and he comes out, and his daughter now is almost an adult. He's lost all those years. And that is his motivating factor in this movie. And we see that is what Kang is going to play on. The idea that he might be able to get back that time with his daughter he lost. He loves his daughter and he wants that time back with her. And again, if you don't have kids, and I don't, but I do have a couple kids that I'm very close to. I've watched grow up. They're Lisa's kids, and having watched them grow up over the years and the change and stuff, I would show up and her son Braden would have all these plans for things for he and I to do. I'm going to show him this, I'm going to show him that, I'm going to go through these toys, and and now it's not the same anymore. It's so that's what Scott's dealing with. And at the same time, in that 5 years, Cassie became, I think, idolized what she thought her father was, that he went to jail for helping people. He went after the big corporations and went to jail for it, but he did it for the right reasons. And he became a superhero, and he became all of this stuff that she looks up to, and not having her dad there to see all his flaws, because you don't see your parents' flaws when you're young. You start seeing them more when you become an adult. You realize that they're human when you're an adult, but when you're a kid, they're your hero. So she's grown up with that, and she's built her life and what she's doing around her idolizing of him. So we see her coming out of jail, which I'm going to assume, and I bet, is she did something protest wise or against, a bad corporation type of thing, like Scott did to go to jail. And that's going to be the tension between them. And that's going to be a major part of the movie. But we also have the Pim Van Dyne family, and where it looks like in the trailer, it looks like Hank and maybe Hope are a little bit on the back burner on this one, but I think that won't be the case in the movie, but in the trailer. And we see that Janet is very concerned about them going back to the realm. She has a history with them, with people in the quantum realm. She has a history with Kang. It's very clear that you can't trust him, and tries to warn Scott off, but he's offering Scott that time that he's lost with his daughter. But I think there's going to be a lot more about Janet and what she did while she was in the quantum realm, because she was there for a long time. And time passed differently for her, because Scott was in there for 5 years, or almost 5 years, and it passed like a few minutes, where Janet was in there for 20 years, and it passed like 20 years. So maybe in one of the cities, time passes normally. I don't know. I'm sure they're going to have to explain that. But we start seeing some of the people that she's dealt with. And, we get a couple characters in there, like Katie O'Brien from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's going to be someone called Gentora, who's part of the Rebels. William Jackson Harper from The Happy Place is going to be playing a character named Quaz. And Bill Murray is playing Lord Krylar, who is supposedly this rich, aristocratic guy who loves the better things in life. So these are some interesting characters we're going to meet besides Jonathan Majors as Kang. So I think we're going to get a lot of her backstory as well. But then there's one other aspect, which is what really surprised me. And we've been hearing about MODOK. And there's been rumors about who MODOK is. But we finally get it kind of confirmed. Now, the press release they put out, there's no mention of who's playing MODOK. And most of the clips we see of him, he has this metallic looking face. And a lot of people speculated that metallic face. Well, the problem is that's not his real face. That mask comes off. And there's an image in the show, or in the trailer, where we see it without the mask. Now, I don't know if Jay has it. If not, I've got it on my phone, and I'd have to send it to him. And I don't think I have Jay on my Facebook thing. Let's see if I can do that. Jay Burns. All right. We'll see if we can get that up real quick. But when you see the face, you go, I know who that is. And yeah, it's who you think it is. It's who the rumors have been talking about. Or at least it sure looks like who that is. And what the rumors have been is that Corey Stoll is coming back to play Darren Cross again. But Yeah, look at that face back there. That's from the trailer. That's a still shot. That's Corey Stoll. He played Darren Cross, a.k.a. Yellow Jacket, in the first movie. And at the end, it looks like he dies because he's getting shrunk down in a weird way into the quantum realm. Well, wild ass speculation. I think he gets down there and his body is all deformed, and Kang is the one that takes him in and basically saves him, finds a way to stabilizes his body in this weird tiny hand, tiny body, big head form, and creates the suit for him, or helps him create the suit, and becomes MODOK. So yeah. I've seen a couple different versions of it, so I'm pretty sure that's real, and that's been the speculation, is that Corey Stoll is back. And I find it fascinating because Corey Stoll plays Darren Cross, which is one villain who's actually, I believe, a Hawkeye villain at one point. And then they take Darren Cross and they make him Yellow Jacket, who he's not Yellow Jacket in the comics. Yellow Jacket is Hank Pym. And then a woman takes over the role later on. So he's already playing one villain that becomes a different villain. So the fact that he once again will become another villain and changes continuity again, but it does make sense because these are characters that don't really, I mean, okay, in answering what John's asking, do you like the change for MODOK? I do, because it's a continuation of a character we've already gotten to know. So it's a continuing story arc, where the other way, if they would have to introduce, I don't remember the character's name, but who becomes MODOK, and then you've got to explain how he got there, and you'd have to do a whole origin story for him, where it's like, no, we did the origin story in number 1, where it looked like the guy was dead. We're just, nope, his body distorted and shrunk down. When he got there, Kang found him, put him in a suit, and saved him. To me, you still get MODOK, but the origins just shifted. But the origin isn't the interesting thing in MODOK. Where origin stories are big for heroes, for villains, they're not as big most of the time. Mr. Freeze, yeah, you've got to have that specific origin. But when it comes to somebody like MODOK, it doesn't really matter. Remember, though, they also called Bucky the White Wolf, who is a different character as well. Yeah, they do that all the time. They shift things around. So that's the big takeaway from the trailer. I think this is going to be a very emotional movie. It's not going to be the laugh riot or, the humorous, fun-loving movies we've been getting. This is going to be much more serious, and it's going to be something that all Marvel fans are going to need to see, where you could get away with skipping some of the Ant-Man movies before if you didn't want to watch them. Now, this is going to be must-see because it's going to set up everything. All right, guys, I've pushed it to the edge, so I'm going to have to end it here, and we'll be right back with In Stores This Week with Kyle, Jay, and myself. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.